Hello everybody, this is Refresh and I am here to take a look at Arcane Tinmen's non-glare board game card sleeves for square board game cards. These are cards that are 70 by 70 millimeters, and the back actually has a nice frame that it recommends that you use to measure a card to see if it fits. So we'll go ahead and do that with one of these Power Grid cards. And it fits perfectly within the card frame, suggesting that they are 70 by 70. These sleeves are clear according to the back, and they are 80 micron polypropylene with a soft non-reflective matte treatment. So these are matte sleeves, and these are going to be the only option that you have when it comes to matte sleeves of the card sleeves that I have found so far. One box of these comes in at $2.99, and for that you get 50 sleeves, and that is an average of 6 cents per sleeve. This is one of the more expensive sleeves that you can purchase for cards of this size. Let's hope that the quality holds up to the price. Let's take a look at what's inside. This also comes in a box, which is fairly unusual for card sleeves. As you can see, these sleeves are smooth and matte on both sides. Now we'll make sure that there are 50 sleeves here. Okay, there seems to be one extra sleeve, and although I'm not going to really cry about there being an extra sleeve, it does make me wonder what the counting process is and if there might be a box out there with one less sleeve than 50. Now to check the thickness of these sleeves, we have 50 sleeves coming in at, looks like 0.8 centimeters, which is 160 microns per sleeve, or 80 microns each face, just as advertised. Now to check the dimensions, these sleeves are 72 millimeters wide by 72 millimeters tall. And now to see how a card fits, we have this Power Grid card. We're going to put it inside. All right, it looks like a very snug fit on the edge. There's not a lot of space, which I think puts it on the slightly less than 72 millimeter side, and then there is just a little bit more space at the top of the sleeve between the opening of the sleeve and the top edge of the card. It's not a lot of space, but it is a little bit more space. It doesn't mean that the top edge really fully closes, so the top edge of the card is still fairly exposed to whatever the elements are, but hopefully that little tiny bit of extra space will be a bit of a defense. It does mean that the top edge of the sleeve is noticeable, so aesthetically this is not the most pleasing sleeve, but as you can see, it is non-glare, and the sleeve does a good job of keeping the glare from making the face of the card unreadable. Now it's time for the sleeve test. I'm going to sleeve these 43 Power Grid cards in 43 of these sleeves and see how long it takes. Ready, set, go. Alright, that took 1 minute and 53 seconds to sleeve these 43 cards. And that is a moderate speed of 2.63 seconds per card sleeved. For the most part, even though the sleeves are a bit on the tighter side, I didn't really have a problem with putting the cards in the sleeve, and that might be something to do with the fact that these are matte sleeves, so that the cards just have less friction against the surface of the sleeve. Now that the cards have been sleeved, let's go ahead and check the consistency and uniformity of the sleeves fresh out of the pack. Alright, the sleeves do seem to have just a slight variability in terms of the width as I put my fingers on them. Some of them are a little bit wider than others. The difference is fairly minor, but it is noticeable enough, and so this variability does make me a little bit concerned that there might be a pack out there that is not as consistent and might have some sleeves that are a little bit too tight. But I didn't really have any problems putting any of these cards in the sleeves, and so I feel like there's just enough space that we don't have to worry about that. The top edge of the card is perfectly uniform, so we don't have to worry about any differences in terms of their height. I do notice that some of the sleeves do have some warping straight out of the pack, and so that is a problem with these sleeves. They do not look pristine out of the pack, and I did notice that a couple of sleeves also had a couple dents in them. So I don't think that these are the highest quality sleeves out of the pack in terms of their consistency and their uniformity. Now it's time for the shuffle test. I have sleeved these cards and I'm going to shuffle them 100 times and see how long it takes. Ready, set, go. that took 1 minute and 36 seconds to shuffle these sleeve cards 100 times. And in the process of shuffling these cards, the process was so generally smooth overall that I sometimes got a little bit over earnest and caused the cards to fly out of my hand. So you probably saw that a couple of times. It is an average of 0.96 seconds per shuffle, which is one of the fastest shuffles that I have yet experienced. And this is largely, I think, due to the matte surface making the sleeves slide into each other with very little resistance. They just go right into each other and it feels like butter. These are probably the best handling sleeves that I have tested so far for cards of this size, and I love how it feels when I'm shuffling these sleeves in particular. Now that I have handled these sleeves a bit, let's go ahead and take a look at what wear these sleeves might have. Okay, for the most part, I didn't really notice any surface wear, but these are also matte sleeves and there's no gloss to come off of the sleeve. So I didn't also notice any new dents. Again, there was a little bit of denting and warping in the surface of the sleeves when I first took them out of the pack, and that really hasn't changed. That hasn't changed from any of the handling. The main concern I have with these sleeves is that some of the corners have some very slight bending on them after handling them, and so I think that these sleeves might take a beating if you handle them and shuffle them a lot, especially on the corners, and which could result in some reduction of capacity to shuffle them as smoothly as you could right away. Here's an example of a sleeve that got a little bit of a bend in the corner after handling them. And again, this is par for course for slightly thinner sleeves. These are not necessarily soft sleeves, but they are slightly thinner than some of the other thicker sleeves that you can purchase. So I think that is one way in which these sleeves have a weakness, in addition to the warping and the denting that appears on a couple of these sleeves out of the pack. So I do question their long-term durability in terms of how many times you shuffle them before the sleeves really start to get noticeably bent. Now it's time for the shake test. I have stacked these sleeved cards into a deck and I'm going to shake the table down for a couple seconds to see if the deck can hold up. Ready, set, go. All right, the deck started sliding over as I shook the table, but it only slid over a little and it looks like it can take a bit more before it falls down, and so I think it's going to be a pass. Even though there is a little bit of slipperiness to the deck, it does not seem to fall. Now I'm going to do the draw test. I'm going to draw 3 cards off the top of this deck and see how well the deck holds up. Ready, set, go. All right. The deck does slide a little as you take cards off the top, but it's not significant, and I don't think that this deck is going to have any issues with you drawing cards off the top in terms of the deck's stability, even with a very mild accordion effect to the cards. So I do really like these Arcane Tinmen non-glare sleeves, and specifically for the smoothness of the handling of the sleeve. I think that is one of their most attractive traits, as well as being non-glare, which these are the only sleeves that you can purchase with that feature. And so those of you who are looking specifically for non-glare sleeves, well, these are going to be your only option. The other little bonus of these particular sleeves is that this paper box that it comes in actually doubles as a card box, so you can stick your sleeved cards into it, and then this will become a kickstand that you can put your sleeve deck into so that you can draw cards off the top. If the stability of the deck was even ever in question, this will give you a chance to have the deck be even more stable than before. And so that's a nice little bonus, and you can actually store your sleeved cards in this box. So that is, again, a nice little freebie that you get. But it does come at the cost of being a bit more expensive than most of the other sleeves, and tied with a couple of the other more expensive sleeves in terms of their cost. And so you do have to measure whether or not you're willing to spend just a little bit more for the matte sleeve surface as well as the beautiful handling of these cards. And there are some downsides in terms of the durability, because the corners do seem to get bent and the sleeves aren't pristine out of the pack, which is kind of sad given the fact that you're paying a little bit more for these sleeves in particular. But I still think that they are a good quality sleeve, and those of you who are looking for matte sleeves or just sleeves that handle like butter might still want to consider these sleeves as your option for your 70 by 70 millimeter cards. If this video was helpful to you, hit the like button. If you'd like to see more such videos, hit subscribe. If you have any experience with these sleeves in particular, let me know in the comments below. And if you have any experience with sleeves for Square board game cards in general, I have links in the description box below which you can click on to share your experience in terms of the consistency and durability for sleeves of this size. And the results of those surveys will be posted at the Init Games' resource page. Thanks for watching. This was Refresh, and I will see you next time.